You are now listening to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. And this is your best friend's best friend, Chidozie Okafor, ready to take you on another journey. Are you with me? Because I'm ready. Let's get it. In this episode, we explore the things that hold guys back from proposing, talk about the issues that come with looking for perfection, examine your ability to really change what someone wants, and discuss the importance of listening to what people tell you. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here with my good friend Paul for another episode, and I'm excited to have him here. I've known this guy for a long time, since middle school. What we at, plus 30 years? Oh, 30, plus 15 years?
It's probably 20.
Almost 20 years?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have you here for this podcast and for this episode to talk about your relationship with your wife, your new family with the new addition of your son, and the journey that you've been on to get to this point. And so, like every episode, before we start, I want to have a toast. I brought you some of this. This is a Mars whiskey. This is Japanese whiskey, so I hope you like it. But this is going to be to... Is it free?
For me?
Oh, yes, for you. You can keep it afterwards. But this is going to be... This toast is to role models, family, and the love and leadership it takes to work. All right, so let's just get started. Let's just hop right into it. I want to take a second. I know this information, but just so people listening have some context for you in terms of who you are and your relationship demographics is what I like to call it. And so, how long have you known your wife?
We met in 2009, middle 2009. So I guess I've known her almost 10 years now, since we first met, years and years and years ago.
And how long were you guys dating before you proposed?
Almost 3 years, like just south of 3 years before I proposed.
And so within that, known her for almost 10 years,
yeah.
Dated for 3 years prior to proposing. How long did you know her before you started dating?
If she were here, she would probably say it was a longer gap. She would probably say something like, I thought we were dating before she figured we were dating. Let's see, 2 years?
Okay. So
a year and a half, 2 years before we started dating? Yeah.
So if my math is right, you guys have been married for almost 5 years?
Yeah, 4.5.
Oh, wow. Time flies.
Be 5 here at the end of the year. Yeah, it does moves quick.
And just to give people context, because we'll talk about finances and all these other things, what do you do for a living?
So I'm a financial advisor.
Okay.
And been that for 10 years.
Since you graduated?
Yeah, since I got out of college.
And what does your wife do for a living?
My wife is a physician.
Okay. And so one of the things that we know or I've recognized is that certain things that might impact how one looks at a relationship is what they were taught and how they grew up. So from a marital status of your parents, what does that look like?
So my parents are still together. Her parents are both still together. My parents have been married 35 years. Yeah, almost 35 years. And her parents are a little longer than mine. So I guess both of us come from households of
both parents in the
both
picture.
Parents in the picture and been there.
Growing up in the marriage, seeing that work.
Yeah. And, I never thought about that until later in life because it was just
the norm.
Yeah, it was just the norm. It was what it was. Yeah. And
then, the other question was around children, but I just mentioned it earlier. So you just have a newborn. How old is your son?
Yeah, man, 10 months.
My nephew.
Lady killer, man. He's got the curls for the girls. Yeah, so he's 10 months old, a little over 10 months. And, yeah, man, he's my buddy, man. That's my buddy. He's a good kid.
See, you light up when you talk about your son.
It's fun things, man. You never know about that until you know about it. I have nieces, I have nephews, I have younger cousins, but it's just different when it's your spawn and you went through the whole process. I mean, I ain't go through, but
he wasn't
I
pushing.
observed. Yeah, I wasn't
he
pushing.
was there in spirit.
I was there as motivation and whatever my role was at the time.
Whatever you needed to be at the moment.
Yeah, whatever I was supposed to be, whatever I was told to do is what I did.
They say happy wife, happy life, so I get it.
It's a real thing. Yeah, it's a real thing.
And so we're going to talk about you and, I guess your development in becoming a father, but focusing on the relationship, we're going to jump into the questions that we got about your relationship, your journey with your wife. And I always like to start out asking, what do you love about your wife?
I think the cliche answer is everything. I mean, my wife challenges me in all aspects. My wife is smarter than me, which I enjoy. I mean, I'm not a dummy, but my wife is smarter than me. And I just, I enjoy that intellectual stimulation, that intellectual challenge in different conversations that we have. I mean, obviously, my wife is, bad. She's a good-looking young lady. And so, the challenge, the commitment to family, and, some of those things you don't see until you kind of see them interact with her family. But, how she's committed to her family, that's something that as you move towards marriage, you would want that as a part of your family, for the people involved in it to be committed to it and not just be a visual passerby of it. And so just sitting and chatting and the arguments, the disagreements.
You love the arguments?
I mean, it's a part of a relationship, right? If you've never had a disagreement with somebody that's in your life, then y'all aren't really challenging each other. And like I said, I mean, she challenges me. And so with a challenge, sometimes it's not going to always just be easy. And so, not that I just love to argue. I actually really don't. You know this about me. I just tend to shut down. I know where the argument came from, the disagreement, what it stemmed from, and it's from a space of us being better. And so you can't really knock that. It's not just to poke at you. It's because, she wants the best out of me. I want the best out of her. And we want the best for our family, for our son, and for what we're trying to do.
Got it. And so some might say, mainly me, you got trying to get all the cookie points, brownie points with your response. And I think a lot of those points, most guys probably see some of that in their significant other. What would you say makes her special? If you looked at the other side of the fence, you're never going to find, what makes her really special to you?
To me, I mean, she's a God-fearing woman. She challenges me in how we run the house as it relates to a Christian household. And, not that I grew up some atheist. I grew up in a Christian household, but just pushing that to be an everyday thing in our household. And I think that's something that is special from her. Because I think in a lot of situations, it's the man does this, and does it without the help or the pushing of. And she pushes me. She wants me to be the leader, but she also pushes me to do it. And it's a team thing. And, somebody's pushing, somebody's pulling, whatever. At the end of the day, our goal is there, and that's where we go.
Okay. Hearing that, we talked about it. Part of the reason why I named this podcast, I Think I Love My Wife, is because there's a point in time where I feel like when you're dating, and you know that you love this person, but something happens, and you're I think I love this woman. It's a affirmation of how you feel. And so my question is, when did that moment hit for you when you're I think I love this girl?
I'll probably get in trouble for this, but this is kind of a turning point. We had gone to Austin for a New Year's trip many years ago.
I think you told me about this trip when you got back from it.
Yeah. Many years ago, and it was in the very early stages of our relationship, or the very beginning of it. I don't remember exactly, but we were there, and it's New Year's. We were young, 20s, and alcohol was involved, and she had gotten to a certain space.
Lit.
Yeah, we were lit, and she didn't respond the same way that I did.
To the alcohol?
Yeah, yeah, to the alcohol.
I was like,
and
to the New Year's celebration?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
you?
And, it was a point where, a lot of times when I would see that out of people, like, I get to making up thoughts, or not making up thoughts, but having thoughts about this and just trying to get away from that situation and, all this kind of stuff. And I didn't want to. Like, it was what it was. The situation wasn't, some peaches and roses, but I wanted to make sure that she was okay. I wanted to make sure that, she wasn't bothered by any of it and everything was going to be okay. And normally I'd just be like, all right, whatever. And I would have gone on about my business. And that wasn't something that I would have normally done. And I was kind of like, okay, we might be onto something here.
This is different.
This is different. I don't know where it's going to go. But this is different because I just didn't feel the same response that I had, in previous times to those types of situations.
And so part of, if I heard you correctly, part of it, you said this is probably early on in your relationship.
Yeah.
And so you've known her for almost 2 years at the time. You guys are kind of in this relationship, in the new early stages of a relationship. And in your head, you're like, I think I love this woman. Did that for you mean like you were ready to marry her?
No. I mean, so like historically, I hadn't been in a lot of like relationships, growing up, college.
Like what defined
college.
Not a lot of relationships?
Oh, I mean,
like boyfriend, girlfriend, or interaction?
Yeah, no, like boyfriend, girlfriend. Like, she's probably my, like, legitimately not some like first grade holding hands kind of stuff. My third girlfriend, like ever in life. So it wasn't something that I was just well versed in and experienced in how to be a boyfriend. My dad showed me what's right and what's wrong. And so being a novice in relationships, I sure wasn't ready to just jump to, marriage, even though I knew I had very, very strong feelings. I still was cautious, and I think that's just, to a degree my nature in some things. But I wasn't there yet.
So you, if I were to sum this up, you entered the situation, you were just dating. You saw potential or some differential aspects in her that made her special to you.
Yeah.
But like you didn't meet her with the intentions of I'm trying to get married.
I don't know if that's completely true, right? I mean, I had gotten to that point in my life. I was probably 25 when we started dating. 24, 25. And I just got to a point where I was tired. I wanted more. I wanted consistent. I just wanted, one person that I could share some time with and share my life with. That sounds like marriage, but I wasn't at that point yet. But I was okay working towards that. So, when we got together, I wasn't going into the relationship kind of saying, okay, this is going to be a great year. It's like a JV version of courting, right? You go court somebody, you are dating them to determine if you're going to get married, or you're dating them for the purpose of getting married. And, if you get to a crossroad, you part ways and no hard feelings. I would say it's like a JV version of that, where I wasn't dating her just for fun. I wanted the end road to lead to that direction, but I just didn't know because of that inexperience in dating and in relationships that I had prior to. And so I think it was more for me than it was for anybody else of just, okay, so what's next?
Gotcha. So from a mindset standpoint, it was more along the lines of you were open to settling down, and you recognize that this had potential of someone that could be like a lifelong partner.
Yeah.
Not that it had to be, or we're gonna make it work, but like I'm and correct me if I'm wrong. It was more or less like I'm getting into this relationship knowing that this has that potential.
Yeah. No, I think that's 100% accurate. Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate.
And so this is a jump, but so why did you propose? Were you confident that she was that person? Like she was your person when you proposed?
Yeah, but that didn't make it easier, right? It's still, for me at least, it was still kind of a nerve-wracking experience. even though I knew and I had, a level of confidence, you can call it arrogance if you wanted, that she was going to say yes. I don't know, but it was still kind of just like this, outer body kind of situation to do the proposal and everything leading up to it of, buying a ring and researching rings and, everything that comes with that commitment. I would lie to you if I said that it was just easy peasy and I'm going to do it, done. No, I mean, it took time. Not like I needed to, have some therapy session about it, but mentally I had to get a few random hurdles that existed just to get to the point where it's like, all right, do it. And even when it was time to do it, like it was still just kind of like, it's commitment. Like it's commitment. Marriage is commitment. Forever. It's forever, right? And it's a commitment, and it's not a promise. It's not a goal. It's not some season. It's a commitment. And so, my opinion, if you're able to kind of just scoot into a commitment, just easy peasy, no issue, you're probably not committed to it. Right, if it hadn't run through your filters a certain way, and you haven't asked yourself some internal questions, is it really like a commitment? This isn't a promise ring. This is the person that I plan on being with. I will be with for the rest of my life, and that's what the intent is. And so that's kind of the thought and feeling that kind of I guess came with it in preparing for that.
So you said a couple of things that resonated with me and that I want to go deeper in. Part of it was the fact that you only had been in two other probably serious relationships prior to, and I want to explore that. But you also mentioned how mentally there were a lot of hurdles that you had to get through. And I really want to spend some time talking about that. And I know it seems like we're jumping around from a chronological order, but since we're here, let's get in it. Because I think for the guys that are listening out there, I think it's good for them to hear that and get your perspective on it in retrospect. Like, were these as big as issues, or did I spend more time on it than I should have, kind of things? And then for women that are listening, I think sometimes they are in the relationship and like, I'm a catch, why aren't you moving forward? Yeah. So they can understand like what goes on in the minds of these men that are things that they either have to accomplish, get over, surpass before they can make that next step. And so I really want to talk about that to see, okay, when you say there were some mental hurdles you had to get over, you're with the woman that you feel has the potential, everything looks promising, you recognize the seriousness of that next step. Can you speak to some of the mental hurdles that you were talking about?
I mean, some of them you think about, like, have I done, what I needed to do in life to be somebody's husband? And I don't mean that from like I need to sow the royal oats or something crazy like that. But like
coming to America.
Yeah, like it's nothing like that. But like, have I saved enough? Should I already have bought a house? Should I, have paid off my student loan? Should I have done should all these things be checked off before I jump into this partnership, this commitment with somebody else, or am I where I want to be in work? Have I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, or should I check these things off before I bring somebody else in to these things that have just been about me? And it wasn't like are you sure that she's the one? Like, that was never a question. That was never a thought, and never a concern. It was more of, are you where you need to be the man for her that she deserves? And so you kind of think through all those things. Finances was a big one for me. And, I just got to the point where I decided that those questions, though relevant, the yes or no to the answer shouldn't dictate that. It's a continual work, for work, for what y'all are going to do as a family, right? It's not going to stop just because you propose. It's not going to end just because you got married, and it's not going to start afresh because you got married, right? And so, I think it was me. It was just, am I where I need to be the husband she deserves, in short.
And within that, is the majority of that, or at least for you, was the majority of that mainly related to finances and career, or were there other aspects that?
I think a bulk of it was around those two. Finances, career, and everything in between. That was a large portion of it. There are probably other little ancillary things that popped in and out, but those were big ones. You had this vision of what a man should provide for, his wife and all these things, and would you be able to do that, and how much does it really matter, and does it matter at all, or should it matter more, and all those things that kind of come with that. But it was largely around, kind of work and finance, and staying in Dallas was a thing. And so there's a lot of things that went into that, and
In retrospect, do you feel like?
I feel like I gave it too much weight than it deserved.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Did you feel like you gave it more weight than it deserved? Do you feel like if you know what you know now, if you were in that situation, you probably would have proposed earlier?
Hindsight being 2020, I probably gave it too much weight. Was I wrong for it at the time? I would still tell you no, I wasn't wrong for it. It's not like I, went on some 5-year delay before I proposed. It wasn't that type of time frame. But in hindsight, I was at a point mentally where I could have proposed earlier in that year, a year before that. But yeah, I gave it too much weight. I think now having been married for a little while and still figuring things out, at the end of the day, when you join a union, you're ultimately going to be working on things together. And everybody's going to bring their own set of baggage. Everybody's going to bring their own set of successes. And everybody's going to bring everything in between. And you ultimately are working through these things together as a union. And so to figure that your cup needs to be completely full right to the brim and everything needs to be aced, it's just not realistic. You're going to forever be chasing something more, right? It's life is not a finish line. It's just a bunch of checkpoints, right? And so if you're trying to get to some finish line before you propose, you're going to be in a perpetual state of running because all you're going to do is check off a checkpoint, and then the goal line is going to move for you to chase that one, and you're never going to get to the point where you think that it's appropriate to do it because there's always something more, something further, something new that is in your purview.
And so given what you just said, is it safe to assume that, whatever you had in your mind of where you might need to be or should be, by the time you decided to pop the question, you probably didn't reach that? Or
no, I didn't reach it. And I still wish I would have. I didn't reach it. But I also think that, some of my goals that I wanted to be were a little out there. There were things that I wanted to be able to do.
You don't realize what it takes.
Right. You think that these things are just going to be smooth sailing, and life happens. You know what I'm saying? And they don't become as easy as they looked when you wrote it down on a piece of paper. I'm not upset of what I decided I wanted to get to. You just got to recognize life is a real thing.
Yeah.
It moves, it shakes, it's fluid.
And so one of the things you mentioned just now was around everybody in the relationship has baggage that they bring to the table that the other person has to deal with. And, talking to several guys, people generally get to a point where they realize this was a person that was for me. I love so many things about this person, but we all know no one's perfect.
Yeah.
How do you get around, or how did you, and for those listening, how do you get around some of the things that annoy you, that frustrate you, that is baggage, that is a hindrance to the relationship, to see what I may call when someone says this house has good roots, the good roots in the person, to know that these are the type of roots I want in someone that is going to be my forever person.
Yeah. I think for me, I think some of it has to do with the nature of what I do, for a living. Is I learned very, very early, like there is no common lane of perfection, and perfection isn't realistic, right? It's not realistic. And so it's, these are the things in my world that, everybody has their set of non-negotiables, right? But if your non-negotiables continue to increase, you're ultimately looking for perfection, right? This perfect person that you designed in your head of what this person should look like. And, I think for me, me, I have a very high, patience threshold.
Way more than I do.
Yeah. And so, it takes a lot to get to a point for me to like really, really react. And so I can deal with a lot of things. There's some things I'm not going to deal with just because, I don't have time to deal with. But I know that I am not perfect. I know that there's mistakes that I've made in my life. I know that there are things that I do that I don't like, let alone that other people like. So who am I going to be to try to judge you on a scale that I don't even judge myself? You know what I'm saying? And so, I've kind of had that mindset since college of, I know things that I do. So who am I to judge you based off of what you do? Right? I might have these few non-negotiables as far as relationships go of what I expect of a person, but I'm not going to have this laundry list. Right? It's 2-3 things that, these things just supremely, supremely bother me. Not like irritate me or annoy me. Because it's like if you're going to be annoyed 37 minutes out of the course of the week, like how much does that 37 minutes really matter in the course of a week? It doesn't. It really doesn't, right? You have to look at the overall situation of somebody. It's like, does this one thing amount for 50% of the person, or does it amount for 1% of the person? If it's 1%, why am I, going to task and going to town about it if it doesn't really matter that much? It's like 99% of the time y'all are golden, and you want to be bothered and bitch and moan about the one? Come on. You're not perfect. So why are you putting everybody in this cast to be perfect? It's just not going to work. And so, for me, I know that I'm not perfect. I know that there are things that I am working on. I know that there's things that I need to work on. And if my wife were sitting right next to me, she could give you a list of things that I need to work on. Right? But I'm not that. So why should I expect that of somebody else? Right now, I'm sure there are young ladies that listen to this and, but what about, all these different things? Like, you need to have your line of things that are acceptable, but to go after every single thing as this like huge negative.
That's real. I mean, people are in these relationships and they're trying to figure out, is this my person? I don't like this. I don't like that. How important is this thing that I'm frustrated by or that's annoying me to the overall, success of the relationship? Do I want to be annoyed by this for the rest of my life? And trying to give them more perspective to, like, to your point, how much does that really matter at the end of the day? I think it's helpful. We talked about your relationship for a bit, and we'll get back into it. But you mentioned, you were, up until 25, 26, you probably only had 2 girlfriends that were kind of important to you. But I'm sure, and I know you, there are a lot of other women that you had interactions with and knew and had some type of rapport with that was more than just buddies. And so walk me through how that experience was. Like, you're not necessarily, I wouldn't say you're not looking to get married, but you're going through what a lot of people are going through now. They're dating, they're trying to meet people. I would assume ultimately trying to find that person's the one. And
so I met my wife when I was 24, 25, right? So, that phase of life for me was in college. And I was very upfront. I feel like I was very upfront and forward. Like, I just wasn't looking for a girlfriend. Like, I just wasn't. Some people probably say I was, like, honest to my detriment at times. And I was like, why are we playing games? You're looking for a relationship. I'm not. So why do you have an expectation of me to be your boyfriend? Like I already told you that.
Proceed at your own will.
I put all the caution flag. I said I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm cool being like I'll be friends with anybody. Anybody that knows me knows, I'm social and I'll have a conversation with anybody. But I'm not looking for a relationship, and I acted as such. And so I think listen to somebody when they tell you something. It's like, listen to them when they tell you. In my yesteryears, I've had, young ladies that were going to, make me this and mold me that. And like, no, you're not. I already told you. I already told you what the answer to your question is. You just didn't like my answer.
So when a guy says, I'm not trying to be in a relationship,
he's probably not lying to you. He's probably telling you the truth. Now, does that mean that his mind may never change? Or does that mean that his mind won't change? Yeah, it could change. But it's not going to change necessarily because you changed it. It changed because he wanted it to change. Right? Now, whether that's y'all continue to interact and y'all had a good friendship and he decided that friendship was just too good for him to not have as a part of his life, you didn't change it. He changed it.
But I challenge you in that. I think
no,
in that situation,
like obviously it's two people that participate in a relationship.
Yeah, but in that,
but like
that
if your aim is to come in to change what he's gonna do, like nah.
In that situation, the person's not pushing a button, and then there's a change, right? But I think there's a
I think there's a difference
level.
There's a difference between me coming at you in the intent of changing you, and me just saying, let's just be friends. And us just being friendly.
Friendly, like...
however you want to describe it.
Whatever she's comfortable with.
Whatever y'all decide is what y'all want to do. Like, whatever y'all decide is okay, and everybody agrees, and y'all are okay with that, cool. Y'all agreed on the terms, and y'all do whatever you're going to do. And if you're good with it, cool. If he's cool with it, good. But, like, you coming in is like, well, I'm going to go over there and cook for him today. Or, and this will get him. This will get him. No, it's not. Right? Like, he's going to say thank you and he's going to eat it. Right? And hopefully it tastes good. But, like, that's not, like, that's what you're trying to force upon him versus him coming to that decision. And that's the difference. In my opinion, that's the difference. And same thing, right? I use women to men, but it's the same thing, men versus women. When a woman says she ain't trying to be with you,
or she's trying to be your friend.
She's trying to be your friend.
She's friend zoned.
You got friend zone, and that does that mean friend zone can never mature into something else? No, it could, but it's not going to be because you wooed her. It's because she saw something that she didn't see the first time that made her feel a type of way, and she said, "You know what? This is worth trying." She decided that. It wasn't your curve cologne or whatever you had on. Like
curve.
Yeah, that's not what did it. Yeah, that's not what did it. It was she made a decision. She told you we were going to be friends. She wasn't lying to you. She told you the truth.
Well, I'm glad that we're talking about it because I think a lot of people tend to be in that boat where people are at different seasons in their life in terms of, when they meet someone, what they want, and the other person may not want the same things. And people are trying to navigate, do I stay around? Do I just leave and hope and be faithful that if this is the person, it comes back? And so if you think about, your experiences, whether it's in college or out of college, in terms of for the situations where you're like, I know that this is not someone that I see a future with, and there's still a level of engagement happening. What are some things you learned now that you might have handled differently? Were you always having that conversation, or was it initiated by the woman? Like, how would you handle those situations different? Like, you meet someone, y'all kicking it, you recognize, or you put them in a bucket like this ain't gonna go past X. How do you know what you know now? How would you recommend handling that type of?
I think you just gotta be straight up and to the point.
You know, like a guy, like she cooking for me, I'm getting the goods. He's not gonna try to mess that up.
Yeah, but like if that's not what you want, like if you haven't said explicitly that, hey, I'm not looking for X, or you are not that person, you leading that girl on, man.
What if you don't know?
What if who doesn't know?
What like, let's say y'all that's happening early and you haven't figured that out. If she's
Well, then y'all are dating.
okay,
It's
just questions.
No, y'all are dating. Like, and if you decide that it's not gonna work, then y'all no longer dating.
But what happens? Let's assume that y'all dating. You trying to get your data points to figure out this is someone that I could be with. She's trying to do that. She gets to that point sooner. She hits you with that. What are we doing?
Still figuring it out, right? I don't know. I think the greatest thing for me is to not be in this dating scene as it currently resides now. It looks rough out there, man.
Especially with IG and me and somebody's son.
I was gone before Tinder and all that jazz. So I never, I've played on people's phones, but like, and swiped for them just to see how this thing works. But I was out before that, and I'm glad. Because, like relationships, especially as it relates to marriage, right? So marriage is this commitment. And I use that word specifically. I said it before. A lifelong commitment. You can't microwave that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not something that... It's not microwaved. It's not a 30-second Hot Pocket kind of thing. Like, it is something that is... marinated and smoked for 15, like it's something that is developed. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the stuff that happens in kind of the dating scenes now, and I'm by no means an expert in it because, like I said, they came after I was already out out of that game. It's everybody wants it to happen like right now, like it has to happen right now. I want to start a business and it needs to be successful right now. I'm going to start working at this company. I need to be promoted right now, right? There is no like marathon to things anymore. But some things are just marathons, right? Certain things are not. Some things are. They are just a marathon. And no matter how many corners you think you can find and, whatever your sprint level is, like it's still 26 miles. No matter what. Well, what if the wind is behind me and it's all downhill? It's still 26 miles. Right? You know what I'm saying? And so I think some things, especially, with relationships that are working towards marriage or in marriage, it's a marathon. It's a marathon. I think that, it's like you get out there and the first mile you're excited, everything is going great. Everything's golden. You saw a few family members, everything's golden. And then you kind of get a few miles out and you turn the corner and nobody's there. And you're like, all right, let me get into my zone. And then you hit this mark and you hit this mark. And eventually it's not even about the legs, it's about the mental game, right? So it's all these components to running a marathon to just finish. Not even necessarily to win, to just finish. And people just want things to just happen so quick that you force it. Right, I was a basketball player. That was my thing growing up. Played in high school and was, I would like to consider the rec league champion in college. But, we would always, the thing was always when you had shooters, like, don't force it. Don't force it. Let the game come to you. I'm a shooter, okay? Get to the free throw line. Get you a good shot. Get a layup. Let the ball go into the right. See it. Don't force it. But so many times I just think people are forcing it, and it's it's like, well, it won't happen. It's because you're forcing it. Sometimes you just gotta let the game come to you. Let the game come to you. Let it evolve. Let it grow, and then boom, before you know it, you're hitting your step backs.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with you, and I think part of what impacts that is that when you're coming into it, based off your background, experiences, baggage, what have you, there's certain values that we place on certain things that we think we need to see or whatnot. And so for you coming into a relationship and a marriage, I guess, what were some of those things that you placed or probably placed a high value on as you were evaluating, but then now that you're in it, you realize not that important?
Oh, I've never thought about that. I've never put any thought into that.
That's fair.
I don't.
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know about your wife, would you say there are probably some things that she was placing a value on as she was dating other guys, or even in a relationship with you that now she realizes is not important?
I think it's probably battles that she just stopped fighting. I used to be in way better shape when we started dating.
Dad bod.
Dad bod 2019. You know, don't let nobody tell you different. And I've definitely gained some weight since then. And it's something that I need to be better at, but for me first and foremost. But like now, like for my son, like, you know, I want to be able to do things with him. And so, you know, I definitely think, you know, when we started and the level of shape that I was in, and we would go for runs and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you know, now I hate running with her.
People that don't know you, forgive me, I'm going to call this out, but you're not the tallest guy in the world either.
I'm just south of 6 feet, man. Better tell the world, this is on tape, isn't it? Just south of 6 feet.
How far south?
You call it. Mexico, Costa Rica, your choice.
All right.
You pick your favorite island, don't matter.
You know, someone that was like 6 feet, but like, you know, I'm 6 foot and 3 inches, so you can gauge. And so, I know for a lot of women that tends to be an issue. Like, I need this guy to be X number of height. How do you think she dealt with that, or was that really ever a big issue with her?
I don't think it was that big of an issue, but like in life, I've definitely heard the, you know, 6 feet, 6'2", you know, I've heard that many a times of, if you were this tall, you know, I was like, all right, whatever.
I mean, as a man, though, do you feel like shorter guys get the same level of respect?
I mean, no, but I've been this height my whole life.
I mean, yeah, I'm not that much taller, so I get it.
Yeah, I've been this height a long time. But no, I mean, you know, girls want to wear heels. I think I think that's the starting point, is they want to wear heels.
They worry about pictures.
Yeah.
Things that don't matter.
Right. You know, they want to be in heels, and they want to be still shorter than you when they wear the heels, or at least like equal height when they put on the big girl heels.
They're probably around 30.
And not like the, you know, the hospital heel. Like, not that 1 inch, you know, church heel. I'm talking about the big girl heels. And I think they do that math, you know, calculate, carry the one. Okay, yeah, this ain't gonna work, which is fine. You know, my wife is, well, she was in here. She would tell you that she's taller than me by herself, like without heels. I think we're the same height, whatever. She got a poof on top of her head right now, so I think that's where it comes from. But, you know, when she puts on heels, she's taller than me. I don't know if that makes her insecure. It don't bother me a damn bit. I just don't care. And I may be different than other guys that are of, you know, the similar, you know, hemisphere of just south of 6 feet. I just don't care. Wear your big shoes.
And I think I've heard I'm pulling a Donald Trump here. I've heard a lot of people tell me that people have said, or women have told me, like, you know, I don't want the guy to be uncomfortable, or I don't want to make him. And honestly, like, being a shorter guy, like, that ain't ever bothered me in terms of.
Well, I'm
not gonna stop talking to a beautiful girl because she's 3-4 inches taller than me.
Right.
And so, I try to think about this in lens that are challenges that typically people face. Could you highlight some of the things that, as you were, I guess, working to get to that point of proposal, that were challenges in your relationship, and from there, now that you're married, what are new challenges, or what have continued to be challenges that you guys are working through?
So like leading up to marriage, I mean, we've had I don't want to call it like disagreements, because that's too strong of a word, but like, you know, finding a church home that works for the house. You know, we've moved a few times, and we like to be close to the place of worship that we are, and we go here, but we still like this one, but goodness, that's far. And you know, when we first started dating, I was at my church home that I grew up in, and it just wasn't her cup of tea. And it's like, well, you know, I don't want to leave. I've been coming here my entire life, and you know, that was I'll call it a sacrifice. It was just the right thing to do, right? Because you want to be able to have that as a part of your relationship. For us, That ain't for everybody, but for us, that was a part of our relationship that we wanted to be there and be sound. And it's still something that we're trying to work through of finding the church home that works for the family, and not just on Sunday, but, you know, that we can be involved in and participate in and you know, do those things. And so we've probably been, during our relationship, excluding like going back to her home and, you know, going to church, but just in the area, I mean, we've probably been to 9 plus different churches in the time frame that we've been dating. And not just we went one day because we were with a friend, like to try this church out. And, you know, here we are still trying to work through that. But I mean, I think that's a positive, right? Because I think, you know, sometimes when you're working through things like that are, you know, pillars of your relationship, once again, this is a marathon, right? And so, you know, yes, there's been some time in between where we've gotten to a point where we've, you know, settled into a spot. But, you know, I plan on being married to this young lady for another 60 plus years, right? So to say that I wish we had already resolved this, yeah, I do. To be upset that we haven't resolved it yet, for what? This is mile 4.
You got a lot more living to do.
Got a lot more living to do, right? So I'm not going to sit here and, how dare we not have da-da-da-da. Well, let's keep working on it. You don't like this one? Cool, let's try another one. Let's spend 2 months there, see if we like it. Okay, not here? Okay, great. I didn't like it either. Let's keep it moving. It's mile 4. Why, you know, the point in which you stop working on it, that's where your problem is. The point in which you kind of quit that work and quit the growth and quit, you know, kind of pushing forward, that's where your problem arises, especially in marriage, especially with things that you consider to kind of be your pillar kind of things. It's steady work. Anybody thinks marriage is just going to like just happen, like you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself.
And so, if I'm hearing you correctly, besides figuring out where we're going to church, everything was just groovy in the relationship.
Nah, bro. I mean, you.
So what else?
How to raise kids.
Even before the kid came.
Naming kids, that was not a positive.
So while you guys were dating?
When we were dating, I think, well, our relationship was different, right? You know, my girlfriend at the time worked a lot, right? And so, you know, schedules just didn't always work out, and it was like, when you free, okay, I'll make sure I'm free there, we'll spend this time, and then I got to go back to work, and she's on nights, and you know, there was just a lot of different things to where when we had time together, fighting about stuff wasn't really what it was about.
Almost felt long distance.
A version of it. I mean, there would be, even at the beginning of our marriage, you know, when she was doing a residency, I mean, we lived in the exact same house, and I go to work earlier than probably the average person. But I mean, there would be possible 3-day stretches where we wouldn't see each other, and we lived in the same house because I would go to work at, you know, 6:45, leave the house. And she would be coming back in from a night shift at 8. By the time I get home, she's already gone, or we're passing each other in the garage. Quick high five, kiss, slap on the butt. You know, and then boom, she's off again. And so, you know, that was an interesting time, just trying to make sure we had time to just sit and just be, you know. And so I think ours was a little different because it wasn't like everybody got off at 5 and let me meet you here for a happy hour. I was getting off and I go home and do nothing or wash clothes, wash dishes, something to occupy the time. She's at work, text messaging, you know, we're engaged, committed relationship, and our relationship is through text message.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things one of the challenges I want to explore more is because dating, I mean, you guys were together through the bulk of, you know, at least halfway through medical school, all of residency.
Yeah.
And so, and you guys kind of pretty much lived together. And we'll get into it from like a roles and responsibility standpoint, but like to a certain degree. And so when you think about all the stuff that you were doing to hold her down, whether it's the dishes, laundry, what have you, because like logistically she's like grinding sleep. Plus, when you think about the financial toll, because at that point in time she's not making anything or very little, and so you are, carrying most of the burden there. How was that walking into that? And I know like you could think about it from like, well, there's a light at the end of the tunnel where it's going to be better, but going through that, I can imagine it's tough.
Well, I mean, she was doing her thing. I mean, she was, latter part of her residency career, moonlighting and stuff like that. And so, I mean, financially, I mean, she was handling her business. She was putting in hours upon hours so that we could do everything that we wanted to do, from, normal bills to vacations to everything in between. I guess at the beginning, my wife is really, really good with money, right? I am a financial advisor by trade and life choice, but she runs our household from a financial stance.
So you're saying she takes care of all like the financial stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I end up doing just because the way things are jargoned, or some of the financial connotations that come out and different things where I get a lot more involved because I know it, right? Or I may build something out, but she'll end up executing it. She runs that. I don't run anything from that perspective.
Is that a more of her preference plus like I deal with it all the time, so I don't want to? Or was that
I think
like
it's a healthy
struggle?
combination of both. I think it's a healthy combination of both, right? It's like I do it all day long. Not having to do it when I get home is great, but she also wants to do it and does it very well. So
it works.
What? Yeah, for what? Why? Because I'm the man? Like, no. Like, for what? She does it and does it very well. Go.
Was it challenging to be and some people will say this, like, you're the man, you're supposed to take care of your woman, all these things, and so you want to be shooting in the gym with that person while they're going through it. But I can imagine, or I guess what I'm trying to pull out is like, how was that mentally for you? Or what were some of the challenges that you struggle with where like, I'm not seeing this person spend all this money, I know they're not like goofing off, but it's like money's coming out of pocket, I'm not reaping the same benefits that someone in a regular relationship gets because I barely see this person. Like, mentally, what does that do to you? How are you feeling? What are some of the thoughts that go on?
I think it was, goes back to that long patience meter that I have. I think that was helpful. But, I run my own practice, right? And so it gives me a lot of flexibility. And so, in certain seasons when she was getting off at 8, if I can make it happen where, I may go in at 6:45, do some things, get some stuff done, and then I go meet her for breakfast at 8:30. And we have breakfast from 8:30 to 10, and then she go to sleep. And I had that flexibility in my schedule, and so I gave that flexibility to her. I think if it's worth it, you'll do whatever is necessary. And even sometimes what's not necessary, right? If it's worth it. It was worth it. It was okay. I had the ability to do these things and, a few sacrifices here and there for it. But, I mean, it's a relationship, right? There's times which I've had to hold her down. And there's times, if not more times, that she's had to hold me down. I run a business. I'm a business owner, right? And this isn't I don't run this salaried, I clock in, clock out, and they pay me. No, I have to sign checks, invoices, and other people's salary, and that's not always peachy. It's a different lifestyle, and you have to. I didn't learn how to be a business owner growing up. I had to figure it out over time, and so that's led to, different, valleys where you had to figure things out. And she's held me down through those. And it's not one. They happen. I've been in business 10 years. It happens, right? You got to hire people and, all these different things that happen. And, she's been there with that. And so me giving up my time or other resources, for us to continue to maintain and grow a healthy relationship, that's easy. That's easy.
Has anything changed and how the, I guess, financial conversations go? Because now, I mean, she's full practice. She makes a lot of more money now. And so
I think they're pretty. I mean, the conversations are close to the same. I mean, we talk more about student loans now than we did when she was in medical school and residency. And, we have a kid now. And so I guess our financial conversations are more often because there's more stuff that, with daycare and whatever little man needs and, different things that we still want to be able to do, but things that we're also preparing for the future. It increases and it has to be deeper. Like, you got to get to the point and get where it needs to go quick, get it resolved and go. Making more money, more problems. Diddy said it in 97.
Bro, this is really good. Thanks for being with us today, and I appreciate everyone that's listening as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast and follow me at Think Love Wife on Instagram. In the next episode, we talk about prioritizing sex, being with an alpha woman, and the challenges of parenthood. Thanks again, and I hope the conversation keeps going.